I'm Dan St.Yves, and for today's episode of Talking With, I'm with the accomplished actor, singer, director, coach. My God, he's even the musical theatre instructor at Calgary Actors Studio, Tory Doctor. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes with me today, Tory.
It's my pleasure.
I've had the opportunity to see you in a number of roles, most recently as the Highland Hitman in Unnecessary Farce at St.Yves, and the multiple roles that you're performing in Artist Collective Theatre production of Spring Awakening. How about filling us in on some other career highlights?
Oh, wow. One of my favorite shows of all time was Legends, which is a rock and roll review show from 1955 to 1975. It's kind of an Ed Sullivan show where I was the host, and I would just basically do comedy in between all the musical acts, and quite often the stage manager would go, "We need to stretch another minute. Go, just do it. Go," and then I'd be making up stuff on the spot. It was absolutely fantastic, and that was at the Grand in London in Penetang Machine for Drayton Entertainment, a wonderful company. Some of the other highlights include working in the Broadway review show for Disney in Tokyo, which was incredible. A 60-member cast, one of the featured singers, and it was one of the highlights of my career for sure.
I look at your resume and it's insane. Great Gatsby, Cats, Dirty Rotten Scoundrel. I mean, it's virtually every highlight of musical theatre you've been in. What got you started on this path?
My mother actually started vacuuming the floor to Man of La Mancha when I was 3 or 4 years old, and ever since then I was hooked on musicals. To this day, I've done La Mancha only once, but it was the only show that I could ever walk into knowing every single word in the show. That was wonderful. That was absolutely wonderful to be able to do Man of La Mancha. But yeah, I started early and learned all the songs from Annie when I was a kid, and then went on to Phantom, Les Mis, and all those shows.
You've been doing it for about 20 years, give or take?
I think I'm at 22 or 23.
Holy crow. And over 50 productions, at least as far as what you're narrowing it down to online.
Yeah, I lost I lost track in countries and productions. So now I just guesstimate. I think I'm somewhere around 60 productions, professional productions, and I'm at roughly 32 countries, I think, something like that.
Wow. Yeah. So most of those, a lot of it was acting, but you're now starting to do a lot of directing as well.
Yeah, about 5 or 6 years ago, I started giving back to the community, and I do my best to try and volunteer as much as I can. But the only thing I really know, and that I think I can give wisdom in, is musical theatre and theatre. And so it started off as just I'll volunteer for a community theatre and give my wisdom, and then theatre companies started coming to me and asking me if I'd be interested in directing shows, and the shows just got bigger, and the shows got better, and the budgets got bigger, and now with Into the Woods, we're kind of treating it like a mentorship program, bridging the gap between community theatre and professional theatre.
Tell us a little bit about Cappuccino Theatre and Into the Woods. I mean, a classic Sondheim.
Yeah, Cappuccino is a fantastic little community theatre company. I've worked with Brian Smith on a few occasions. He's the producer of the show, and I believe the president of Cappuccino Musical Theatre. And he asked me to get involved, and he said, "What show would you like to direct?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to direct Into the Woods, but I kind of want to take it in a darker, more interesting direction." And he said, "Yes!" He literally barked at me, "Yes!" All right, calm down. And so we started up immediately. As soon as I was available, we actually auditioned back in January, the day before I started Unnecessary Farce at St.Yves. Then while I was in Unnecessary Farce, Mandy, our musical director, taught the music of the show, and then I came in after Unnecessary Farce finished.
What's the backstory for Into the Woods? Just for somebody that's not familiar with it.
For those of you, for the three of you, not not familiar with Into the Woods, it's essentially the Brothers Grimm fairy tales: Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk, Rapunzel, all tied into one. So Rapunzel's prince is brother with Cinderella's prince. They all kind of interact and live in the same world, in the same genre. And they all fear, to some extent, the woods. And so we find the familiar storylines that you all know, and then we weave them all, Stephen Sondheim weaves them all together, and has some of the most beautiful, poignant, incredible music you've ever heard. I particularly believe that the Act One of Into the Woods is a complete musical theater masterpiece. On its own, it's absolutely, it can stand alone against any show. Act Two is the consequences of the choices made in Act One, so we're really exploring that.
Now, it's interesting because there's loads of theater companies here in Calgary, and it's all seems to be supported to the max, and yet the original star of Into the Woods, Bernadette Peters, canceled her shows here. Is that just we would rather see the local theater, I guess?
When that happened, I knew a lot of my friends put their hands to their face and face palmed for about an hour. Bernadette, when you watch, because I know you follow me on Instagram, and Twitter, but when you see this, just know that you broke a few hearts. Not mine, mind you. I suspected you might cancel after our last little tiff, but I just made that up. I don't know Bernadette Peters at all. She's lovely. She's very small.
I was actually noticing how prolific you are on social media. Almost 5,000 tweets so far. Is that just a natural evolution of being an arts person?
I think so. One of my big things is making theater accessible. So when I'm doing a show at Theatre Calgary, for example, quite often before the show, I will go into the house or go into the lobby and seek out a family and say, would you be interested in a tour of the show? And then we're like, okay. And they're always trepidatious at first. They're like, who is this strange guy? And I introduce myself. I say, look, I'm in the show, and if you're interested, I'd love to give you a backstage tour of the show. But you have to make me a promise. If by chance I give you this tour, then you have to promise to come back to Theatre Calgary and see another show that season, right? So I do that a lot to make theater accessible to people. And I think if you can get somebody hooked at age 10, 12, 13, 14, and they have this amazing experience and they get to go backstage and see the magic of Cats or the really incredible sets in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that they'll be hooked, right? They can't help but go, wow, this is incredible. This actor took the time to seek me out and take me on a tour. And I think with social media today, it's important for actors to communicate with their audiences and invite them, or at least open a dialogue to upcoming productions, maybe not necessarily mine, but other ones that I'd be interested in seeing. I didn't get to see 12th Night, which I really wanted to see, but when you're directing a show and in a show at the same time, you have very little time. But yeah, it's important for artists today to really embrace social media and promote themselves, because it's show business, right? We got the show part down. It's the business part that we sometimes have trouble with.
It is a challenge to have a normal life as an actor, director, coach. Like this has taken you, as you've alluded to, all around the world, and I mean, just in Canada alone. Like you're a busy boy right here in Calgary.
Yeah, I have a fiance. I've got 3 boys, and my focus is being the best father I can be, while still maintaining a career that pays the bills. It's a really delicate balance, and for years I was based in Toronto, I think, for 8 years, and for 7 of those years I was not home. I was never home. So I think I've struck a nice balance. I'm relatively steadily employed here in Calgary. Thank my lucky stars. It's wonderful. It's rare for an actor to be so so often employed, particularly in their own hometown, without having to go and leave. And I don't think I've left for about 3 years, which is great. I can still pay the bills. But yeah, I think it's important. Calgary Actors Studio approached me as their resident musical theater teacher, and I teach summer intensives, which basically focus on just the acting. I don't care about costumes. I don't care about sets. If you can get a story across without sets, lighting, or props, and you can have an audience, make the audience feel, take them on a journey, make them feel excited about theater, musical theater, that's always my goal. And Dan Libman at Calgary Actors Studio embraces that same philosophy. We focus on acting. We focus on earning the right to sing in musical theater, which not a lot of places do.
Yeah, it's the work I've seen you do has all been top drawer. So best of luck with Into the Woods. I look forward to catching you in action more. And anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
I would just like to add, Into the Woods is playing at the Vertigo space, opens May 31st until June 14th. Come get your tickets. I won't be at all the shows, but if you do come and see me, or if you do want to drop me a line at drtory, at drtory on Twitter, feel free. Have a lovely day, and I'm sure I will cross paths with you out there soon. Take care.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Sure. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes with me today, Tory.
My pleasure.
Now, I've had the opportunity over the last few years. I've only been doing this for a little while, but I've already seen you. Are you kidding me? Well, that's the beauty of editing, eh?
Here's some of our cast members coming in now. Hello, guys. Good to see you. Just in a bit of an interview here, looking really good.
The last few moments of it, we're all good. And this will just catch your profile.
Great.
God willing. Okay. Is it? And I can use any of this, right?
Absolutely. Feel free. Whatever I do, use it all.